Welcome to my channel. Today is December 25th, 2024, and this video has to do with emergency preparedness and the ability to prioritize preparation. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. That's the 6 P's. Now, if an emergency happens and an individual is not prepared, their performance is going to be what? Piss poor. So we need to change that and have the ability to ramp up performance, or have the ability for others to come in to assist that individual in ramping up their performance and getting out of the situation that's causing the emergency. In this case, I'm talking about natural disasters, severe weather events, road washouts, mountain slides, hurricanes, extreme droughts, fires in the area, anything that could cause a serious collapse of our transport system for food, water, and shelter in communities. We start off with reminding each other that community works as a network, and it is stronger when people are linked together and they work in cooperation. It is not stronger when people are fighting. When people are fighting, this is not strength. Strength is in cooperation. And so your local community needs to be prepared to cooperate with others, period. They need to be able to cooperate with their family, their neighbors, and their extended neighbors. This is how society solves its own problems without government intervention. The government is like, the governing body is like the last of the last resorts. And in America, we have this thing called FEMA. And FEMA's good idea in concept. Application, pretty shaky. Response time is really slow. Bringing in the wrong products for the circumstances. Not addressing the actual needs of the people. Bringing in units of housing that are inappropriate for the area. FEMA is a real general response, and it's not necessarily the right response, because they do not take into account climate, time of year, what people actually use, what people need. They do a generalization. And their generalization may not be appropriate for the situation. I am not saying that FEMA is a bad organization or that they should not respond to any situation. I think they should respond. I just think that they need boots on the ground in the community that's actually needing the response to actually organize what response is needed, instead of just randomly throwing money at a problem. Randomly throwing money at a problem doesn't solve anything. Solving a problem has to do with going and finding out what the individuals need, and then addressing that issue and doing it economically and realistically. So here in the western United States, in California, Monterey specifically, each of our cities, and this is not perfect, do not quote me on this, each of our cities could have roughly 30,000 people. Pacific Grove, Monterey, Carmel, Seaside, Marina, Castroville, Salinas is way over that. It's probably pushing 200,000 people. You name the community, Carmel Valley, you name the community that surrounds us and the bay. Santa Cruz is not really Monterey County, but the idea is that there's all these communities around, okay? And a few years ago, we had some real heavy rainstorms, and we had flooding issues, mostly for the farmers and for roadways. And FEMA responded, and they did. They brought in emergency crews, and they brought in emergency tech, and they did stuff. And it wasn't very useful. They spent a lot of money. It wasn't very useful. They could not address the flooding problem. FEMA had no response to the flooding issue. FEMA had no response to the bridge issues. FEMA's response to the bridge issues is negligible. They are not the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers deals with bridges. So FEMA needs to organize the Army Corps of Engineers to be able to deal with bridges, waterways, stuff like that, infrastructure. So the response is not necessarily appropriate. And I'm not critiquing FEMA badly. I'm just saying that the response was negligible compared to the amount of people that were affected by the flooding. And Monterey County was not the only place that flooded. The whole Central Valley flooded. So FEMA's response was like, really, really small. You can't spread yourself that thin and expect money to solve the issue. What we can do as communities and individuals is we can work together and we can work in cooperation, and then have FEMA come in and give us some assistance in producing those continuous positive effects. Because we need Federal Emergency Management Association, or whatever they're called. We do need a response. It's true. We just need that response to be localized and organized, and then they don't waste money. We just don't want them wasting resources when they could be better used in another area to greater effect. So this is not a negative critique on FEMA. It's an organizational problem, and we're addressing it as a community. So I'm addressing a localized potential response. And the localized potential response can actually go national. And I have no problem with that if people are thinking clearly about this, because it doesn't take that many resources to start solving issues and problems. For me, I'm going to take on the idea of there's an affected zone that's had a problem, whether it's flooding, fire, earthquakes, natural disaster, regardless, tsunamis, whatever, drought, doesn't matter. You select the problem, and then we'll create the response. And I need your comments in the comments below to talk about that. So, because I'm not 100% right on everything, and this is community action at its best. This is where we as individuals work together to make a community, and we as individuals work and cooperate to help solve a problem. So I'm going to assist others in solving a problem right now. I'm going to give us an idea and a strategy. So, with no further ado, there's an affected zone, a negatively affected zone, and a zone that has not been negatively affected, okay? Negatively affected zone is losing some value. It's losing land or population or water or food or earth or something. Something's happening over here that's negative, but it's not happening over here. This area is working really well. It's got good cropland. It's not going through a drought. It's not having natural disasters or earthquakes. It's actually in good condition. But this area over here is like a little bit chaotic. This area here has a population. Both areas have a population, but this area has a population that's getting edgy. They're kind of losing it because they don't know what to do. This area has plenty of materials and nobody that's edgy. People that are going to think clearly and respond properly. Okay? And so what we do is we take the people and the resources from area B. This is area A. This is area B. So area A is having the problem. Area B is the response level. Area B takes its time, not too much, but it takes its time to take its resources and start transferring them over to Area A and start calming down Area A and reestablishing community and getting everything back into order. Okay? Once they get into order, then Area B can disassociate itself from Area A. And this is really critical that Area B moves out of Area A and doesn't permanently stay there. This is temporary to assist in a permanent solution. Okay? So the first thing that we have to recognize is we need a mode of travel. And in this case scenario, this may not work in every scenario because maybe we need a helicopter, a plane, or snowmobile, or we might need a different organized transport system. It could be horses and sleighs and dogs and sleighs. It could be walking. We don't necessarily need the system I'm using as an example. I'm just going to use an example because in my climate, it's very unlikely to require a snowmobile or a dog sled team or a horse team to actually move product. Because I'm in a Mediterranean climate. Again, climate matters. I'm in a Mediterranean climate that basically barely freezes and is never too hot. So Monterey, California is very moderate compared to like Alaska. Very moderate compared to the Sahara Desert. So we're not trying to say that this will solve in every climate. We have to be climate appropriate. But in my area, transport is a major issue. And so what we do is we would use a vehicle appropriate for transporting the materials I'm about to talk to you about. In my case, I'm going to use a truck. My truck is a 1/4-ton truck, and it's not a heavy-duty truck. It's a light-duty truck. It's a Ford Ranger. Okay, I've got an extended cab so I can move people. I've got a 6-foot bed on the truck so I can haul materials. I have a rack on the top so I can haul lumber or other materials, ladders, gear, etc. My vehicle is 2-wheel drive. It's not 4-wheel drive, but typically I don't need 4-wheel drive in my climate. I'm not typically going 4-wheeling. I'm not going up a hill in dramatic fashion on dirt. So I'm on my road sets, which are level typically. I don't require 4-wheel drive for my vehicle. I would prefer for an emergency situation to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, which would mean probably a bigger truck. 3/4-ton truck would probably be preferable with a granny low gear and possibly 4-wheel drive. That would be fantastic. Also, I would want on that vehicle an 8-foot bed. And I would probably skip the crew cab to get that 8-foot bed. Because typically when they put a crew cab on, they turn the bed into a 6-foot bed and you lose volume of transport. So 4-wheel drive vehicle would be better suited to the purposes that we're talking about. But a 2-wheel drive truck will suffice, and other vehicles will suffice also that can tow. And we're talking about towing about 6,000 pounds of mass plus the vehicle. Then we need a trailer. And the trailer should be an enclosed trailer appropriate to the size of the vehicle to not overweigh the vehicle or cause the vehicle to be anything other than level from truck to trailer. We don't want the vehicles to be like this because you lose steering control. We don't want the vehicles to be like this because you lose trailer control. So we want the truck and the trailer to be appropriately sized. We don't want them too tall or we don't want them any variable that would make it inappropriate to drive the vehicles because we're dealing with an emergency situation. We don't want to cause an emergency. So the trailer should be an enclosed trailer. I like the Wells Cargo systems. I think they're a very nice trailer. I'm not endorsed by Wells Cargo or any products that I'm going to talk about currently. but I think their cargo trailers are well designed and well suited for this application. They have the right height, they have the right width, they have the right length. They can carry the right significant amount of material. I've actually used Wells cargo trailers before. They're highly functional for what they do for their size. Their axles are well rated. Their tires are high performance tires for their trailers. They have options. They have like the back of the trailer can fold down all the way, or it can be double doors, or it can be a single door. They usually have a side door near above the or in front of the axles, so you can get in from two sides of the trailer. They're highly efficient trailers for such a simple trailer design. So that's my recommendation for a trailer. The truck, Ford, Dodge, whatever. The truck to me doesn't matter as much as the trailer does, because most vehicles are really well made nowadays. Then we're going to need some products for the truck and the trailer and the theoretical emergency. So we need some minor things. We need first aid kits, stuff that should be in the vehicle already. First aid kits, emergency tools, minor wrench kits, lug nut wrenches, stuff that should be in the truck already. Some stuff that's not in the truck that I would add on purpose. We'd want some mobile chainsaws. And I'm not talking gas-powered chainsaws if, gas can be a problem to get. And this is kind of a tricky issue, because gas-powered chainsaws are really effective and they can run a long time. The problem with gas-powered chainsaws is that they're not always well maintained and they don't always start and fire. And this goes for any two-stroke motor. Like, I've been using two-stroke motors since I was about 5, and that's 43 years of using two-stroke motors, and it's a hit or miss if they're going to start. Like, you have to maintain your equipment perfectly. And in an emergency situation, you don't have time to sit there and figure out how to rebuild your motor or change out the spark plug on your two-stroke motor because it's not working. You need to be able to start your chainsaw and go. In this case, I prefer electric chainsaws, but you can have a gas-powered chainsaw if it suits you and your equipment works well. There's a DeWalt chainsaw that I've been using recently. It's a 12-inch chainsaw. It's very small, very compact, and very powerful. I prefer that chainsaw for this type of an emergency situation because I can use a 6 amp hour battery pack on that chainsaw, and I can go for almost half a day of sawing through materials like Monterey cypress or pine. And in my area, that's some pretty serious cutting with a 12-inch chainsaw. It's not a very big chainsaw, but I could cut through a lot of material in 4 hours with that one battery before I have to change the battery, which I'm impressed by. I don't know what DeWalt did that got it right. And again, I'm not being sponsored by DeWalt, but they got their chainsaws right. They got the chain right. They got the sharpness of the chain right. They got the motor right. They got the RPMs right. They did something correct with their 12-inch electric chainsaw. And I've used a lot of chainsaws of a similar nature. And I'm telling you that DeWalt got it right. I used a pull saw of theirs recently, and it was highly effective. So I'm not a full proponent for DeWalt. Some of their stuff's no good. I don't like their grass cutting system, similar to a weed eater. The weed whacker system, way too bulky, way too heavy, way too cumbersome. It's not ergonomical. But their chainsaw, they got right. So anyways, getting back to chainsaws, I would want a chainsaw on board, a minimum of that DeWalt and a maximum of a 24-inch chainsaw. Now, again, I'm not against gas-powered chainsaws. You use what's appropriate for you. I prefer to have the electrics because I shouldn't be chopping down a forest with this thing. I just need to get through maybe a path, maybe a road. I might have to chop some debris out of my way. I might have to cut through some 2x4s or something to break through something. It's just a general tool for cutting wood. And between a 12-inch and 24-inch chainsaw, I should have enough to get whatever I'm doing done. I don't know if there's a 24-inch chainsaw out there that's electric, so you'll probably have to have that in gas. Next, after you've got the chainsaw operable, you need a winch on the front of your truck. And Harbor Freight sells some really excellent low-cost winches that hook right into the electrical system or tag onto the battery. I've used those many times. And they have 3,000-pound winches, and they have 6,000-pound winches, and they have winches that go up to 12,000 pounds on a 12-volt system. And, you know, Harbor Freight doesn't always carry really good equipment. Some of their stuff's junk. And I've gone through that cycle. I've gone through Harbor Freight's cycle of junk over the last 20 years. But they got their winches right. They got the torque right. They didn't get the speed right. But you still move. The speed's slow, but their torque is excellent. They got the gear ratio correct for pulling mass. Now, if you've got a road that is impeding you with a tree, and you need to cut up that tree with that chainsaw, and then you need to move the bulk of the tree, and it weighs 6,000 pounds, that winch is gonna do it. So, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's an excellent thing to do, and it's low cost. Their winches are not expensive. I think their most expensive winch 5-6 years ago was like $700 for a 6,000-pound winch or something. It was not expensive. I was looking at other companies that had similar winches, and they were double the price. And what are you going to gain? You use it once. Harbor Freight's winch is perfectly suitable for the job. So go Harbor Freight. Every now and then you get it right. Toe straps. We're going to need some really high quality toe straps because you don't want junk toe straps. So just don't even skimp on the toe straps. Go with high quality toe straps. Don't get the junkers from Harbor Freight, but get high quality toe straps. You want 6,000 pound or greater toe straps. That includes pull straps, ratchet straps. You want the highest quality ratchet straps you can get because you don't want that webbing to fail under load, because it's you don't want anything to fail. You're an emergency. Don't create one. Okay. Then we need some spare fuel, whether for us or for tools or for other people to get out of their situation. So a minimum of a 5-gallon gas can, just general octane, doesn't have to be premium or anything, and a 5-gallon can of diesel. Again, we're not trying to save the whole community, but if somebody's stuck in their diesel truck and they need to get down the mountain, give them the 5 gallons. Move on. Or maybe a dozer needs just to push that tree just a little bit further and needs 5 more gallons of fuel, and it can push that tree out of the way and clear the road. You got it. 5 gallons is good. We're going to need an assortment of drills, impact drivers, minor construction tools. We have great electric saws, ones that have battery packed saws and stuff like that. And when I'm saying electric tools in this situation, I'm not talking about corded tools. I'm talking about battery pack tools. So that chainsaw is talking about is battery pack, 6 amp hour battery pack on the chainsaw, and it works great. So let's step back a second and remember, when I say electric, I mean battery packed. Unless you have a kit on your truck that has an inverter that you can run an extension cord off, which I also recommend. So anyways, but back to drills and tools. General construction tools are all battery packed now. So, you know, sawzalls, drills, drivers, impact wrenches, a general rough assortment of tools will get you out of most situations. Somebody blows a tire and they got to remove the tire, and they're blocking the road, and you can't tow them because the vehicle weighs 10,000 pounds and your winch is only 6,000 pounds and your tow strap's only 6,000 pounds, you're not moving that vehicle without breaking something. Now you need to change a tire, so you still need that ability to change that lug nut out, change a tire. That means you're going to need to have stuff like a floor jack, which is a really good idea. Floor jack, some way to get the lug nuts off, some way to remove the tire, put the new tire on, put the lug nuts back on, get that vehicle off the road because it's too heavy for you to move. So simple thing like a tire inflator. If somebody has a low tire or a flat tire and they're blocking the road, you might be able to get them out of the way and help somebody else get down the road, because all you did is inflate a tire and get somebody to safety faster, or help them get to an emergency center faster, like a hospital or an evac zone, just by inflating a tire. You would be amazed at how excellent having a tire inflator is on board, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. Makita makes a really excellent battery-packed tire inflator. Now, I'm hesitant to recommend having two different battery styles in your emergency kit, because one, you have a DeWalt chainsaw with a DeWalt battery pack, and now you have a Makita inflator with a Makita battery pack, and that means you have to have twice the amount of batteries, and I'm not really for that. It would be nice if I could find a DeWalt tire inflator to recommend, but I haven't seen one so far. So I have to recommend what's available in your local Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware, or you name your hardware store, and what's available there is what you're looking for. You can buy stuff online. Again, this is preparedness, so you can go out and you can organize this better to get just one battery style for all your tools, and that would be ideal. So a tire inflator and a plug kit would be really ideal in this situation. Again, these are emergencies. Jumper cables, you better be able to hand away a set of jumper cables. It happens. And the straps. So that's some just general gear. It's not everything that you might want or need. Just some general gear for dealing with an emergency situation. Now you're going to be transporting this truck, this trailer, this minor gear, and you're going to be going into a zone where, say, food is disrupted. Food and water are disrupted. Those are really, really hard ones. Sewer we can deal with in another video, but I'm going to do food for now. So in the trailer, we're going to have some things. We're going to have a cistern, a small 250-gallon IBC cistern tote, empty, unless you need to transport water with you. Again, that could weigh a lot. So, you have to think about when you get that water on board, because water in a cistern can move and slosh and cause a vehicle to lose a little bit of steering control. So we have to be careful about that one. Also, it might overweigh your maximum tongue weight, and it might overweigh your trailer or your truck. So again, putting the water into the IBC may be a thing we do after we arrive at the location. Disconnect our trailer, get equipment out, put the IBC on the truck, and then go locate a water source that's localized that we can filter, or we can just pump directly into from a hydrant or something. So an IBC 250-gallon tote, probably empty. And then we'd need a way to cycle the water out of that tote, whether it's a pump or whether it's a mechanical pump like a hand pump. Something we want that, and some version of a hose. A hose attachment to the bottom of the IBC to get gravity fed water out. We're going to need some devices for filtration, and we're going to need some potential, again, hand cranks or pumps to pressurize that water to go somewhere. That water cistern system may be a specific video for another time, but we'll move to that. We're going to need some mobile tables, and this depends on what you think you need for your situation. Mobile tables are great. The legs fold up. They can hold a lot of weight, hold some like 500, 600 pounds. Some are up to 1,000 pounds now, and that's great, because I'm about to talk about something that's pretty heavy. The mobile tables come in like 2 foot by 4 foot and 3 foot by 5 foot, and they have some that are slightly bigger than that. I wouldn't go much bigger than 3 foot by 5 foot. It just gets kind of bulky and cumbersome, but you could have 2 or 3 of those, and that would be helpful. A power system. So this is an interesting one because this one could weigh some. This could weigh something because of the battery backup system, and this is dependent on requirement, and you may have to go back for this one. Not a big deal, but a power system is for lights, communication. It can be run on solar, on wind, on a combination. It had a battery backup or battery, prime use. It's independent of the grid. You may have to run a refrigerator or something for people's medications, but you're not going to be running heavy equipment off this. It's just for lights and communication predominantly. And in the event that somebody has like insulin that they need to refrigerate, there's nothing you can do. You got to plug in a refrigerator. That's what you got to do to save somebody's life. That's what it's there for. It's life-saving technologies. That might help to run a pump for the water. It might help to charge batteries for your DeWalt system or your battery bank system for your tools. That power system is really critical because you're going to only have so much fuel in your vehicle once you get to the site, and there may not be any fuel on site, and you need to still be able to leave to go get more materials. So you don't want to get stuck on site and become part of the problem. You want to be able to come and go. You want to stage, go. Come back, stage, go. You're helping people and people are helping you, so it should be cooperative. After that, we need a compost kit because many areas are going to have a lack of food or transport of food to their area, and we're going to need to start growing food, and that's pretty critical. We can do that pretty fast with leafy greens and things like kale, spinach, arugula, lettuce, like radishes and things. We can get some microgreens really, really fast, start getting nutrition back to people, and grow the longer crops later. I mean, we'll start them at the same time, but they'll fruit out later. So we're going to need a compost kit. That compost kit's going to be consistent of a tarp, a rake, a pitchfork, a sieve to sieve the compost. Super simple. We're going to build what's called a Berkeley method compost pile. It composts materials within roughly 18 to 30 days, depending on how good you are at composting, how big the pile is, how much materials you have, the proper ratio of the materials, but 18 to 30 days and you've got compost for growing food. It's excellent for getting rid of stuff that might be going bad and causing a rancid problem in the area. It's a hot version of compost, so it terminates weed seeds and it terminates bacteria and things that are negative. It's aerobic, not anaerobic, so it's not causing more problems, it's solving more problems. And it creates a high quality nutrient for plants that you're going to grow for food. Electric net fence with a battery and solar panel. This is an independent of the power system. It's an independent kit, and what it's there to do is to stop browsing herbivores and pest animals from eating what we're about to grow. And it may help deter some humans too, because we need the humans to eat, but we don't want them to eat before the product is ready for everybody to have some. So that electric net fence will just help moderate any browser pressure on the crops. And this is just a generalization of what we can do. Now, what happens is we arrive with our truck, we assess the situation, we determine where to deploy the truck, where it's not in the way and not causing a problem. The trailer is located at a central hub. Once the trailer is located, the trailer is dropped. That way the truck can be moved to go get more supplies, to go get more people, to move people out of the area, to help with emergency systems, again, we would have a 6-foot to 8-foot bed. We can transport people or livestock or materials. We can start organizing how we're going to be of assistance with our local community. We're going to need to organize with a central player or a person there that's going to stay there and not leave. That way they can keep the organization going and keep the materials going, and because we're going to come and go. We're the emergency response team. Then once we've gotten the gear offloaded of the trailer and the truck, the trailer becomes a sleeping location for those in need. So it becomes temporary housing. So the trailer is dual functional. We could have tents and stuff brought. I didn't bring tents into this because I don't typically think about tents, but tents could be brought to assist in spreading out that little facility and making it a central hub. Once that's established, we set up our tables, and we've brought in straw bales with us, and we've brought in seeds, and we're going to bring in seeds of like kale, lettuce, radish, other fast-growing greens. We're going to bring in some starches. We're going to bring in things like potatoes, sweet potato, yams, sunchokes, roughly fast-growing starches. We need some starches, rice, whatever. Eventually, there's going to be other things, beans and peas and other greens that we're going to bring in. But remember, this is fast response. So we're trying to do something quickly and give some people some hope that things are getting solved. Not wasting time and waiting 6 months. We don't have 6 months. We got days. Let's do this. Also, we're going to need some other minor tools like gardening implements like shovels, picks, things like that. Just a couple. We don't need a lot. We don't need to bring in an army's worth of materials, because many houses will have shovels and picks and things. And we're not going, if we have to go to a rural area where it's really rural, they probably have every tool. Just so we're aware, because they're in rural areas, usually have all their own tools. But we're going to set up those tables. One table could be just for meet and greet and distribution of materials. The other couple tables will be set up to grow food. And they could be up for other uses, but I'm just using them as a food growing material system for now, just to demonstrate. So the table is set up, a straw bale is put on it. The straw bale is wetted, given water so it's saturated. And then we can dig into the top of the straw bale and put in seeds directly. We don't even need compost and stuff if we want to get started immediately. If we wanted to take a little bit more time, if we had a food supply that was somewhat reasonable, and we didn't have to starve people to death, we could wait for the 18 days to 30 days for the compost to work to put the compost in the straw bales. We don't have to put the straw bales on the tables. We can have them on the ground. It's not necessary. I'm just using it as an example of potential and or possibility. Once the straw bale is in position, once it's planted, once it's watered, somebody's in charge of that. Keep watering it on a regular basis. That is part of the food system. Then we set up the cistern, hopefully uphill, so we get some gravity feed on it, and some way to put water into the cistern, the IBC tote or the container that we've selected. Then we set up the hose to run down to the gardening system, and whether it's a hand crank pump or hand watered or whatever your system is, we devise that so that way we can water these bales and keep them going. This should start the process to feed either a single family or multiple families, because we're not trying to feed the whole community. What we're trying to do is create a positive response that could be replicated and mimicked by multiple people all at the same time. So everybody takes a positive response, everybody does a simple job, and we solve the issue, and we calm down the situation and make sure people get to have food. Now, in the bringing of the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the yams, we're going to separate half of them off just to eat. People are just going to eat those. There's nothing we're going to do. We're going to stop people from starving. The other half go to planting and to training these people to plant them. And we want to train them as fast as possible because we're coming into a situation where we can't stay. We have other people to help. So we need to train the people that we're helping to actually solve their own issues. And so we're going to train them how to grow food. We're going to show them how to use the straw bales. We're going to show them how to use a cistern. We're going to show them how to operate things in a way that'll be productive. And we're going to give them a communication lifeline to us. So that way, if they have any problems or issues, they can contact us and we can calm down the situation and help them walk step by step through it. And that way they can teach other people. In the case of this happening, we would probably have a pamphlet or a guide with an emergency set of people to communicate with for problem solving these issues, and where they can get more seed, more potatoes, more yams, more general food, or call in a new supply. If they get a larger population of people, like their extended family comes in, or the neighbor, his system failed and he didn't say anything until we left, and then he comes over, you got any food? Okay, well, there's an extension system. This is what it is. This is not the only system, and it's not the only way to do a system. I'm just using it as an example of how to get started to help solve a problem in the community. Other people are going to be bringing in things like blankets, shelters. You name the reason for the solution: extra clothing, water. And people are going to bring in cases and cases of water. I'm sure of it. They always do. People are going to bring in canned food, but there's no cooking. Okay, so we got to be careful about canned food, because if you can't cook it and heat it up, people aren't going to use it. So that's why we want to go to the leafy greens and stuff they can immediately use, the living sources of things. And again, this may not work in every climate, and it depends on the season that this is happening. If it's snowing, 2 feet on the ground, you're not growing leafy greens, right? You probably have to create a polytunnel, in which case you'd need PVC and you'd need some tarping and some plastic, and you'd have to devise a way for the snow to slough off, and you'd have to make some sort of shelter to grow these plants, which you could still do. It'd just be different. Again, climate-specific requirements. You can't just randomize it. So that's some suggestions on starting up a support system. Now, once the support system's installed, there's got to be easy communication. So there has to be lifelines to other people. There's going to be physical transport of mail. There's going to be, as of 2024, we have cell phones, we have satellite phones, we still have things like pagers. We still have ways to communicate. We're still going to be transporting by walking, horse, mule, dog sled team. We're going to be transporting by bicycle. We're going to be transporting by car. That's another thing. A bicycle should probably be involved here on the vehicle. 1 or 2 bicycles should probably be involved to be able to get, in the event that the vehicle breaks down, we still need to be able to move. Bicycles are a great way to move in an emergency situation. They don't require power or energy. They just require human power. They can still have a little mini trailer for a bicycle, can still transport some materials and start getting things going. But getting back, we need the communication device. So we need to be able to transport to and from with communications. The telephone network will still work probably. Your landline will still probably work, even though nobody uses them anymore. They are still highly effective for communicating information. Computers may or may not be operable. Wi-Fi may or may not be operable. But satellite communications, Starlink would be operable. In the event that Elon Musk wanted to actually solve something instead of just making money, he could help us create these systems very easily and add Starlink into the system. I don't have a problem with working with people that are going to help communicate. If Elon Musk wants to, or any of his team wants to assist in this process, leave a comment below. I mean, when it really comes down to it, we need to cooperate. So communications is key. Transport's going to be key. And we need to help start rebuilding our communities as they're impacted by devastating effects. And again, these are suggestions, not requirements. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it, leave a comment below. If you really like this content, give it a thumbs up. If you really, really like this content, share it with a friend. If you really, really, really like this content, make your own content, share it with me, because I want to see what you're thinking. I know this video has been long, but there's a lot of good, valuable information in here. And you can reach me through smoothswalespermaculture.com. Or you can leave a comment below. It's all in how we think and how we cooperate. I like to use a system called permaculture. That's what this is all about. It's all about ethical design sciences. And the first ethic is take care of the planet and the systems of the planet. Second ethic is take care of the people and the systems that people use. And the third ethic is a return of surplus, or a limit to consumption, whichever you prefer. But a return of surplus really solves the loop. It closes the loop for the first two cycles, and it really benefits everybody. There's some great resources out there. You can look up 6 Ways to Save the Planet with Mushrooms by Paul Stamets. Joel Salatin has a great way to really start farming chickens and pigs really quickly at low cost to help solve the food crisis in the event of a devastating emergency. Polyface Farms, I highly recommend going and watching his videos. Jeff Lawton, jefflawton.online.com. He offers a training course for permaculture. Highly recommend it. Look up In Grave Danger of Falling Food by Bill Mollison. It's a 51-minute video that you can watch on permaculture and the establishment of permaculture. The Global Gardener series was a BBC series back in the 80s. Highly recommend watching those. That was Bill Mollison going around the planet and showing arid and tropical and cold climate solutions to food problems, and he shows food forests and how to deal with swales and build swales and stuff, and go into urban areas like Davis, California. Village Homes at Davis, I highly recommend looking up Village Homes at Davis, California. They've got a great system where they installed swales between every house track. Really effective system, growing food throughout the whole area. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of people doing great work. It's just in how we want to participate and think about it. I'm going to leave this video with one last thought. There's 8 billion plus people on this planet. If every single person planted one tree, that'd be 8 billion trees planted in one day. You want to stop the deserts, you want to solve these environmental crises, plant one tree. If you want to speed up that process, you could plant one tree a year for the rest of your life. Okay? And train people to plant one tree a year. If you want to really, really speed up that process, you plant one tree a month. If you really, really, really want to speed up that process, you plant one tree a week for the rest of your life. And if you think that that is a really goofy number, why not try planting 1 tree a day? We can solve our food crisis. We can solve our supply issues. We can solve all the monetary problems just by planting trees that are appropriate to our location, appropriate to the area, produce food, timber, you name it, shelter for wild animals, all just by planting a tree. If you have questions about how to plant a tree or why planting a tree would be a good idea, you can look up Tree Planters on Facebook. That's our channel. And you can leave a comment below. It's been fun sharing this information with you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Have a great day.